Welcome to Synced On Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and today I have a special guest today, Weston Zimmerman from SynkedUP. Hi, Weston. How are you?
It is amazing to be here. We finally got together on a podcast. So this is awesome.
Only, I don't know, 10 months late, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So if anybody was at Equip last year and went by Weston's booth, you would have seen our booth or vice versa because
Yeah,
we were right next to each other and kind of with Twinkie names.
I know. It was crazy. Like I remember when I was getting to the show, Fred called me. He's like, "Hey, like, do we have did they make a mistake? Are they trying to give us that booth on the other side of the aisle too?" And I was like, "I don't know." And I was like, "Synced? Oh, what is this?"
I know.
But then we got a chance, great way to meet each other and discover each other's,
I
backgrounds.
know.
And yeah,
After the shock of like, oh my goodness.
yeah,
And it's funny because whenever we went through a rebrand last summer, so we were very new because we broke away from the UK, and so we had to come up with a name in a very short time, and we just really wanted some like one word that meant connecting of design, build, and maintain sectors, or connecting of the industry in all ways possible. And so, and we did find in our search Synced Up, and I was like, well, you know, out of all of the hundreds and thousands of companies around the US, what are the odds that
right,
and then
right,
we're right next to each other. So yeah, so that was, like I said, after the initial shock, it was like, hey, we have got to do some things together to
yeah,
sync it up, sync us up.
yeah. And I feel like this is just the beginning. This is a great thing.
It is. Well, and like I said, at first you're like, oh my goodness, I knew there was a company named this and I didn't, I should have reached out to you then, but we were in a bit of a, fast forward, like the UK had control of our website and everything, and they said, "Oh, okay, you want to break off from us? We've turned off your website." I'm like, "What?" Like, "Oh my God, we don't even have a new name." And so I mean, I thought it was amicable, but maybe yeah,
Mhm.
they turned the lights off really quickly, and so we moved fast. And anyway, let's hear about you and your journey. I don't mean this to be about us.
Well, where do you want to start? What do you want to talk about?
Well, let's talk about being in the industry first, because
Sure.
we talked about that before, and because that led you to develop Synced Up. So
Yeah.
I think it's important that people know, where you came from, and there may be a lot of people that know that already, but just talk about your roots in the industry.
Well, I started working for a landscaping company when I was 16, and
Okay, just legal. Yeah.
yeah, I was just a teenager looking for a job, and I loved working outdoors. Like I grew up on a 15-acre property that from a very young age, I kind of took pride of getting the grass mowed, mulching everything, keeping the place looking in tip-top shape. And I always liked, that kind of outdoor work, making things beautiful. And so that was kind of what made me jump at the opportunity to get a job with Tussie Landscaping in central Pennsylvania. We're here in the rural hills of, the Appalachian Mountains of Pennsylvania. It's
Oh,
beautiful
nice.
location. The leaves are just getting ready to start to turn color, so it's awesome. But
Oh,
we I worked there basically just as a team member, as a laborer on the crew for a number of years, and eventually I became a crew foreman. Um, and I loved water features, so I tried to get as many of the water features jobs as I possibly could. And my goal at the time was, to get really good at it, and the thing I wanted to do was win the Aquascape Artist of the Year award. I think I
cool.
first I think I first became aware of that award in 2012 or 13, and and then pretty much every water feature I built after that was like in
Maybe this
pursuit
is
of,
good.
yeah, like I,
Yeah.
I had a goal. And it wasn't just me, it was the whole Tussie team. But in
Of
2017,
course.
we finally did win it, and that was probably the highlight of my time with Tussie. But alongside, like, the longer I was with Tussie, the more, I started doing more and more things. I kind of got into time lapsing our jobs, which turned into editing YouTube videos, which turned into
Yeah.
doing all the social media, which turned into doing all the marketing and managing all the ad campaigns. And like literally, I was kind of working two full-time jobs for the company at the same time, doing both, director of marketing and leading a crew.
Yeah.
Um, and as I got more and more involved in the business, I got more and more, there was kind of a core leadership team of Steve and Matt, the two owners, Steve and Matt Martin. And then there was Dave and Derek. They were the designers and salespeople, and myself. And we kind of like all got our heads together frequently to make decisions. And the closer I got into that core group, the more, I kind of was tasked with, I think it was 2013, maybe. I was tasked with getting us off of paper and into some sort of system, because
Mm.
we were very archaic, honestly, in our operations. And so I got the
Well, a lot of
first software.
companies are. I
Yeah, and
mean,
well, even to
really,
this, yeah, even to this day, they are.
yeah. Well, it's hard whenever you're out in the field and you love what you're doing, but the paperwork always,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
is a nuisance.
if you strictly are on paper, I mean, it can literally be a full-time job for multiple people in a
Yeah.
decent business. And so, but in the world of technology that we live in, you can almost manage that to a point of it's your Friday afternoon work or your Monday morning work. You can automate so many things and turn what used to
Mm.
be an all-day job into a 20-minute task with software,
Yeah.
you know. And so anyway, that journey kind of led us to trying one software, then another, and then another, and then spreadsheets. And like what we were struggling to find, what we were looking for that we could not find, was a system that allowed us to go really deep in the numbers, build a company budget so that we could establish our company's pricing, so we could make sure our estimates were priced correctly. There was a software, still is out there in the market today, that does a very good job of that, that we used for a long time. But what we were missing was kind of like, okay, now we want to take that operationally out into the field and like build a bridge between the office and the field.
And do budget versus actual.
Exactly. What we needed to do was
Mm.
collect that information, like actual hours, actual materials used, because a lot of materials are coming from the bulk yard. They don't trigger a receipt, so they're just like invisible.
Yeah.
And
But
so
still cost you and still
it
cost
still
you
costs you.
labor
Yep.
and yeah, a
And
forklift or a yeah,
so
dump
what we
truckers.
needed to do was find a system. What we were on the hunt for was find a system that did the full, what I call the feedback loop. You do a budget to establish your pricing, then you measure your actual production to to educate and inform your next budget and estimate. And
Yeah. So you
it's a
can make sure that you're earning money, even
yeah,
though it feels like you are, or you're busy.
yep.
That doesn't mean you're always, I mean, charging the right amount is key, isn't
And
it?
it's literally the difference between going out of business or thriving.
Well, and not only that, it's the way to grow. And if you don't know your costs, you can't, you know, put on a budget for advertising the
Yeah.
next year or
Yep.
increase your budget for advertising. So I mean, it's just everybody starts at an hourly rate when you're starting your
Yeah.
own business, and then you're too cheap and you have to get on that
Well, what kind of
earning
happens is we start with an hourly rate that we think is like it. We just kind of
enough.
pull out of thin air. Like
Yeah.
what's competition charging? We kind of pull it out of thin air, and it's kind of based on our sense of our own self worth and all of that. But then we grow the business, we buy equipment, our overhead structure goes out of the roof, and
Yeah.
we never change it. And that's why people are caught in this, what I call the entrepreneurial prison. Like they're caught in this hamster wheel of working harder and harder and harder and harder and harder, and they just can't. It doesn't matter how hard they work, they just can't break out of the barely making it cycle.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so what the answer to that is your pricing has to be linked to your business's costs to operate. So your
Which are
insurance.
different in every city and every
Exactly. In
and
every
and in,
business.
I was going to say that, and every size of business
Yeah.
has a different overhead because yeah,
I mean,
maybe
you can
you
even,
are investing in some kind of project management or whatever, and that helps you, but that costs you, but then you need less people, so then you have less overhead from that point of view, and you have less taxes, and so I mean it'll change with every
it's
single company.
yeah, there is no apples to apples. I mean, there's principles and trends and similarities, but there is no two companies exactly the same. Even your own company will change on a monthly basis or weekly basis because your insurance bill
Winter
goes up,
time,
you
or
know.
yeah,
What you need, that needs to flow through to your quotes. Your fuel jumps up $1 a gallon.
fuel.
Guess what? That needs to flow through to your quotes. And the easiest way to do that and remove the emotion from it and remove the risk of letting my own self-worth dictate what I would think I can charge, the only way to do that is to directly link your pricing formulas to your business's costs. And that's kind of the relationship between what I call budget and estimate. And so you build a budget, which informs your markup rates and your overhead recovery and your labor man hour. And so
Yeah.
a cost in your budget changes, like your insurance goes up or you hire a new marketing person, all of that instantly flows through to the next quote you send out the door is going to be slightly different.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, that is really good. I
Mm-hmm.
I really like the feedback loop of the actual though, because
Yes.
I think if you don't do that, you really well, and I do see lots of people, on these Facebook groups with landscape companies or landscapers going, what do you charge for this? What should I charge for that? And
Yep.
it's people starting in the business, and you're like, oh my goodness, you can't show a picture of a site and actually get anybody to cost that up properly.
You
You
know,
have to understand all
a
the nuts and bolts behind it.
yes. And if you want a good quality answer, it starts with asking a good quality question.
Mm, mm.
You know,
Well, and so then, sorry, I'm maybe jumping
no,
ahead,
go
but
for it.
like, so then you started developing the software in-house at Tussy. Is that what
Yes, we did,
happened?
which was
Okay.
probably the most naive thing we ever did. Because it's nothing short of a miracle that I'm here talking to you today, and like SynkedUP is what it is. But we got a quote for $67,000 from a company that I had connections to through my dad, and we thought we were going to get our hopes and dreams built, and we were like, 67, that's really expensive. Well, it's about 10 years worth of software expenses, so we can justify it. Well, what we didn't know is that was you burn through that amount of cash in a software company in a day. It's just like
What? So
it.
you didn't have anything at the end of that
Oh,
you
we
could
did, we
use?
did,
Okay, you did.
just not nearly what we thought we were going to get.
Okay.
You know,
Okay. So just the bones of it, maybe,
yeah.
or the,
We
oh,
basically, with that $67,000, basically got us a very skeleton, bare bones estimating tool,
oh,
and and
okay.
and 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 a, and it also did have a schedule at that point. Yeah,
Okay. So then you started working on it. Is that so you
yeah,
took that and then
yeah.
developed it? No,
Well,
further?
we just kept on. We just kept on. We just kept on. We wanted to see uh, the vision that we had of this beautiful, easy to use from A to Z, from budget to tracking and getting the feedback loop. Like that's what we had in our heads and our vision, and we just kept on going. And Steve and Matt, which are partners with me in SynkedUP, kept on putting more money into it, thankfully, and eventually this is the miracle part. We got it to a point where it actually worked, and it was something that the ultimate litmus test is, does it solve a problem effectively enough that people will give you money to use it?
Yeah.
You know?
And yeah. And so just a question about like, so you got that bare bones, from the 67,000 investment. Did you use that same software company to further
We
develop it?
did. We did for
Or
quite some time. It was probably 2 years that we worked with that company. My wife is from Romania. That's another whole story. But I had some connections to some engineers. There were some friends that had gone to school in Romania
oh,
for
okay.
computer science, and so through some connections over there, built an offshore development team that we kind of had for 2 to 3 years, and here in the last 2 years, we transitioned to full on North American engineering, and
Yeah.
I feel like we have a forever team now. Like
Wow.
it's what we have now is what we needed to actually build the company and scale.
Yeah. Gosh, that's a long journey and sounds expensive.
Yeah. Oh, oh, you're right on both counts.
So tell me, so then you said the three of you are in it. When did you launch SynkedUP?
So January 2020. So winning, funny enough, like winning that Artist of the Year award at Testing Landscaping kind of put us a bit of on a map in the aquascape world. And so
Okay.
we had a lot of people knew who Tussie was, and they kind of started catching wind that we were building this thing. And so in January 2020, we kind of said, "Hey, we're looking for some testers, some beta users." And so we got a dozen companies on in that spring of 2020. And we ran the summer with those beta users, and things went really well, actually. And in
Wait, this is the
October,
year of COVID, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And October of 2020, at our very first contractor summit ever, we announced it and launched it and got our first, I don't even remember, 6 7 customers, I think, from that additional. And then I went and did some speaking at a couple different industry events, still kind of connected to the pond world, the aquascape world. And we went, yeah. And I started really engaging a lot in Facebook groups that winter. We like Facebook groups got us our first 100 customers, essentially. It
Wow.
was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that is interesting because, like I said, I mean, I see that, people asking about cost all the time.
yeah.
And so, yeah, that does seem like a good fit. Well, so how many users do you have now? This is only 3 years, yeah,
So we're at about 370 or 80 some active companies currently.
that's amazing.
And we've been tracking to double year over year each year. And so right now, my head is in the space in the world of, building the company to scale, building the team to scale, um, building the product to scale, which kind of all has the effect of it slows down some front user facing development a little bit, but it's all in laying the groundwork and making the investments now to really serve the customers long term, and not build something that's a house of cards that could collapse at the slightest,
Yeah.
going
Yeah,
on.
a strong foundation.
Yeah.
Well, and so who would you say that, every software, every product for that matter, has like a niche audience that you're
Yeah.
targeting? Um, who would you say, like if you look at your users right now, do they tend to be a certain size of company
Yeah.
or a design and build versus,
Yeah.
residential, commercial? Like yeah, who's your ideal
So,
audience, or do
I
you have one?
mean, usually people become a customer sometime between 500K and a million, because that's when they're beginning to say, okay, I can't work any harder. How do I get more efficient?
Smarter.
How do I get smarter? And so often that's the time frame or the maturity phase when people are signing up. So, but
Mm,
there are sometimes earlier, like sometimes as early as 100K in revenue, and all the way up to 5, 8, 10 million. So,
yeah.
but the core is in that 500K to 2 million or 5 million, somewhere in that range, where anywhere from a handful of team members to 10 to 20 team members in a business. That's the core. And they're usually primarily focused on design build and also run maintenance. So we have some companies that primarily do maintenance and play
Okay.
around with design build, or not at all. But the core, what we're best built for as the product stands today, is your design build company first, and you also do some maintenance, but it's not your primary driver of growth.
It does seem like the your niche market, you said 500,000 to 1 million. Um, I found out a statistic not that long ago, and hopefully I'm getting it right, but like 92% of the company, so it's dealing with the number of companies um, over the US, I think it was just US, that 92% or 1 million turnover or lower, or should I say revenue? I
Yeah.
can't ever remember which one's the British one and which one's American one. But
Revenue, yeah,
revenue.
revenue. So I don't know if I saw I saw a study myself. I don't know if it was the same one, but yeah, the overwhelming majority of companies in the U.S. are less than 5 million. Very few.
Well,
Like,
and to me that says that yeah, we do struggle as an industry to scale our companies.
And well,
Like,
what's interesting is a lot of people don't want to. Like a lot of business owners don't want to. They're like, I don't want to grow a company to the point where I have middle management and like I started this company because I truly love what I do, and all I want to do is build my core team of three,
well,
four,
and I,
eight,
oh,
10 people, and I want to be profitable. I want to have a lifestyle business, and I don't want to like it's not about the top line number. It's about quality of life and doing what I love.
yeah, and I get that, and I think that's great. But do you think that there's still companies that want to scale and just
Oh
don't
yeah.
know how? And I wonder, you know, out of that 92%, is it half of them that are happy where they are and half of them that want to scale? Or
I
is it,
I would say it's not half and my this is totally gut feeling, nothing
I know,
scientific.
I know.
But I would say it's not half and half. I would say maybe a quarter of them would like to scale and are working to get there, and three-quarters of them are like, no, I just want to be able to run a business that survives if I break a leg, but I still
Mm,
want, I don't want to be a detached absentee owner
yeah.
or and I don't want to get to the
Love
point
what I
where I have
do.
30, 40,
Happy.
50 people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a people manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. Still,
Because that's what you
still
become.
hands on.
You become a team builder, a people builder,
Yeah.
a leader of people as opposed to a craftsman when you hit that scale.
And I think that it's great. It's great to get your gut feel because, again, you know, I've only been in this industry in the States since 2019.
Mm,
So I don't feel like I can make those kind of, you know,
sure.
judgment calls. And so I like hearing those kind of things because to me, you have a better sense of that. And but I do find it's, you know, we have all these the big top 100 companies and then we have all these small companies and I do find it strange that there's a missing middle.
There's not very many, say, plus 10 million companies out
Yeah.
there. But yeah, it's just interesting. It is an interesting dynamic. You're right.
But and so things like the tool that you came up with, I think that, you know, these are things that can help you scale or help you have less time, is what I think you said earlier. You know, you could by
Well,
using SynkedUP, you're actually running a smarter business
yeah. So
rather than
it basically unlocks your pathway to do either or. Like, so if you're trying to build a lifestyle business and you just want to conserve time for yourself as the owner, sure, it does a tremendous job of that. If you're trying to scale and hire designers and salespeople and account managers and all of that, well, yeah, it also helps you with that.
hmm,
But one of the big things is whether there's on the financial side there's a big piece, and then on the operational side there's a big piece. I kind of put them in two separate chunks. So on the financial side, there's two ways to screw it up. There's two ways to lose money, and it's get the math wrong, not price your
yeah,
jobs correctly, um, or get your production capacity wrong. And what I mean is
yeah,
a budget fixes the math problem, but I could have a perfect on paper budget and build an estimate for a job. But if I estimate that it's going to take me 100 man hours and it actually takes me 150, I wipe out my profit just as badly as if I had done a terrible job on the math with no budget. So you cannot have one without the other. Like just getting a budget is not enough. It's a huge first step, and it's often the most critical one, but just as importantly is tracking, so that you have your production capacity so you can go back and look. Oh yeah, like I'm building a quote right now, let me go back to that job we did last summer and just kind of get a, okay, yeah, see, we actually went over my hours on my estimate that time, so I'm going to correct it on this estimate. And like that is, having that feedback loop is critical. um so those
in
two,
your
yeah.
experience, what do people most, I'm not trying to be negative, but what
Yeah.
what do most people that, you know, you're onboarding a new company, what do you find that they struggle with more?
Well,
The budgeting or the
when they come to us, they're struggling with the budgeting the most because it's the screaming problem that hasn't been solved.
Okay.
You know, they've been saying, "Hey, I've been charging $65 an hour for 12
10
years and I've
years.
never changed it." You know, so that's the first one, but it's to us like that's the easiest one to solve because it's literally a math problem. You put in your inputs, you get
Yeah.
your results, and it's really easy for
And you
us to
can
solve.
look at your last year's accounts to pull all
Yes,
the data.
that's
So
right.
it's there. It's,
Yes. So we can quickly and effectively solve that one as a software company, but it makes a tremendous life-changing difference for a lot of people. But the harder one to solve is the tracking because that's more of a leadership and discipline thing. And people sometimes get the budget, like they feel like they have a new lease on life. This is awesome. And then they never track and then they don't make money. And they're like, what's going on? And when we dig in and look, it's like, well, every estimate you're not bidding enough of hours or you're not bidding a
yeah.
or they're not tracking at all and they don't know, and if you don't know
Oh, goodness.
it's impossible to correct. So
Yeah.
the only way that you can solve that problem, which is a critical problem, is being willing to ask your crew and your team members and yourself to track what it is that you do. And I'm not saying track like run a stopwatch on the job site. I'm literally just saying at a high level, even if you just have a total
Yeah.
man
The
hours
prep
of all
for
your
this
people doing
job
this job,
or,
even
yeah.
if it's just hours per job, that's better than nothing,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know. But ideally, I like to get to the point where we're tracking it. Like if you have a patio and a landscape and a water feature and a fire feature, that you're tracking at least on that level. Because then you can segment. You're like, hey, we did great on all three, but we kind of missed it on the fire feature. That one took longer than we thought. Like that's actually getting to the point where it's effective enough that you can make better decisions going forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the operational side of things, um, the other big challenge that blocks a lot of people up is essentially when you're onboarding a software like this and you're taking your magic potion that you always did a quote with or an estimate with in your head and and you're putting it out into a system and process. It's like doing brain surgery, literally. It's like, okay, owner, how did you do this? Well, I don't know, I just kind of, you know. And so that's one of the biggest things, that's one of the biggest operational challenge we have as a software company is getting owner operators to actually sit down for a hot minute and build the templates and the
A
production rate
system.
the system.
And
uh
I'm laughing. I'm not laughing
yeah,
at people. I'm laughing at myself because I can really sympathize with that over the 15 years. Like I feel like I've had all these like I have a stonemason I go, okay, this is the job, here's the drawings, here's, you know, how long will it take to build this wall? It's like, um 5 days. And then it took me years to learn that it's more like 15 days. Because he would say, "Oh, I'm going to start that day. Oh, well, first I have to go and pick out the stone, and then I don't have enough stone, and then I need some coping stones. These aren't coping, and just like
yeah,
and we call it in the UK or in Scotland, faffing. It's a really unproductive time, but
yeah,
you forget to include that because you think
yeah,
of building. And I think that's what he would always do. He would go, I can build that size of wall in 5 days. And you can if you have the exact stone, the perfect scenario of weather,
yeah.
which you
and
never
that's
have.
and that's
And
and that's why I don't know who's is some for famous quote, something about an hour of planning is worth 8 in the field or something like that.
yeah,
And that's exactly why that is. And that's when I say you need to operationalize your business, or you need to do brain surgery and pull that information, that magic potion out of your head and put it into something that's repeatable by someone other than you. That's the only way you're ever going to unlock and get out of underneath the crushing feeling that you have in the early days of being an owner operator in a business.
yeah,
Because if you're always just nose of the grindstone and you never have 2 minutes to sit down and build the process or build the systems or build the variables or build the templates and production rates, you will never escape out of that feeling. And that's what I want to try to do in this industry, is make it easier for owner operators to actually not only charge correctly for the price, but also feel like they're not slaves to their business, like they own the business, not the other way around.
yeah,
um, and that's what's so hard about the owner operator size of business and the trades. You know, it's a lot of craftsmen that start a business because they're good at doing something, but then they realize they have to be a business owner, and that's really hard. And I
That
want to make that easier.
yeah. Yeah. And so just when you talk about tradesmen, is Synced Up geared to do mostly landscape businesses, or is it for any
Well,
tradesman or
I mean, it's our roots. That's where we came from, but the principles that we teach, the operations that the software performs is applicable to most any owner operator contractor business that sells labor materials, you know.
hmm,
Um, so we do have some
that's really
electricians
interesting.
and some home remodelers and some um, pole barn builders and stuff like that that are using it and they love it, you know. So it's the same principles, just you just have different products in your product catalog, and you have, you know, different ways of structuring a quote. But at the end of the day, you're still trying to get a quote accurate, and you're still trying to track your actuals to have that feedback loop.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, that's really powerful. And it's funny because and now I see the synced up. When you think of
Mm-hmm.
syncing on your computer, it's the feedback loop.
Yep.
And I was just thinking for our brand, it's about feedback. I really like the design, build, maintain, and then feedback to design.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought of the circles, the little syncing symbol. Um, but it's totally different from I think it's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Yeah. It's
it
to
fits
me,
really
like,
well.
I actually drew a graphic that we use sometimes, and it's literally the budget, producing an accurate estimate, the tracking, then that
Yeah.
data gives you the
Go
data to
back
do
in.
a better budget, you know, and
Yeah.
it just keeps, you know, it just keeps cycling.
And it sounds like you said something earlier that was about you can tweak a price of something in the software and it automatically gets fed into the next quote. So
Yeah.
it's not like I guess when I hear you talk about feedback for the next year budget, I think, oh, so you have to wait a year, but it's not like that. It sounds like it's pretty
Yeah.
instantaneous that you can
That's
get
actually a
better at this.
common that's actually a common misperception, and there's I mean, that's doing an annual budget is better than no budget, but what can happen is fuel goes up, you make a hiring
Yeah.
decision, you increase your overhead expenses, but that all happens in the summer, and you never update your budget, so you're selling quotes at prices that aren't accounting
Yikes.
for those additional expenses, and you get to the end of the year and you didn't make as much money as you needed to. What was
Yeah.
supposed to be your profit goes to pay for those additional expenses. So the way I like to teach it is, listen, the
Do it
moment a
live.
bill changes, the moment you hire a person or fire a person, the moment anything changes in your business cost structure, you're instantly going into SynkedUP and tweaking that number. And the
Yeah.
quote that the salesperson is sending out over the next office next door is immediately
Is
accurate.
right.
Yeah.
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 That is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a monthly charge. Is that how you run? It's a
Yeah.
SaaS, you know?
You can do monthly or annual.
Okay. Okay.
It's up to you. It's just you save 10% doing annual. It's just, yeah, some people like the annual, some people like the monthly. It's just whatever your preference is. It doesn't really matter to us.
I don't know if you want to say how much it is or if it
Yeah.
depends
I
or
mean,
yeah.
so this is current as of today. Obviously, pricing is something that's ever evolving. But as of today, September of 2023, it's $3.99 for our standard plan a month, $3.99 a month for a
Okay.
standard plan, and $5.99 for a pro plan. And the pro gives you some additional things like automation and GPS coordinates on timesheets that employees clock, just some additional, more upper scale tools. And the annual plan saves you 10% on both of those.
Okay. Okay. Well, great. Well, it's been great to catch up with you 10 months late.
Yeah. Are you going to a
And
quiz this year?
yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah,
I
we'll
won't
see.
have a booth though.
Oh, okay.
So
Well, come
I'll
on.
come and hang out at your
Yeah.
yeah, come hang out at yours with my sync shirt.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get you some synced up swag.
Okay, okay. Awesome. Well, and we're doing a few things coming up together. So a
Yeah.
webinar, you're also coming to speak at our Synced Live event in
Yep.
Atlanta, Georgia. So we're very excited to have you. So where can they get in touch with our listeners? Where can they get in touch with you?
So the best if you're actually interested in the product, just go to the SynkedUp website, which is SYNKEDUP.com. If you're a casual observer and kind of just want to get to know us better, just follow me on my Instagram. I'm pretty active on our Instagram, and that's just kind of the my daily life plus our team and what we're doing. And I
And
spend a lot of
customers.
time. Yep, I spend a lot of time going out and visiting our customers, and so you see a lot of clips of what our customers have to say, and just it's not even just all about software; it's just about business, So my vision is just to like we actually just did some work to re kind of clarify our vision. I think it was just too vague before, but the way we worded it just earlier this month, and we announced it at our SynkedUP Contractor Summit last week, is our vision is to help blue collar contractors uh, to end entrepreneurial poverty for blue collar contractors and their teams,
Oh,
and
good.
actually help them live in a world where they own and control the business and not the other way around. And we believe that the two biggest things that prevent that from happening or make that happen, entrepreneurial poverty, is like where the pricing is a black box. It's a mystical thing and it's attached to self-worth and all of that. So we're crushing that problem. And then it's just the ability to operationalize business and do brain surgery and get what's in your head out into a system and process that if you happen to need to go on vacation, someone else can be at home and just follow your process. And you don't even have to tell them, you don't even have to be the one doing it. But when you're the only person that can do any certain task in your business, that's a tremendous risk. And that's what
Yeah.
produces the world where you live in bound to your business. And you wake up 20 years later and you're like, man, this thing owns me. Like I started it because it was fun. Now I feel like I'm a prisoner to it. And
Or you're spiraling
yeah,
lower and lower, or yeah, yeah,
and that's the world I want to, that's the world
eliminate.
I want to serve. I want
Yeah.
to make that, my vision is to end that, and to make it possible for a new person starting a business, first couple jobs, like pick them up right there at that phase and just kind of eliminate all those pitfalls
Yeah.
on the growing a business journey for aspiring business owners.
Well,
Um,
then it raises the bar on the industry too.
yeah,
It helps us all be more professional. Quick
absolutely.
question.
Yeah.
Do you sell it in the UK?
Well, we we would be able to. The biggest challenge we have going outside of North America is the accounting systems we integrate with. So
Okay.
QuickBooks is the dominant accounting system for small business
Yeah,
in North America. You go outside of North America, it turns into all kinds of other ones.
it
So
is. Yeah.
that's the biggest. So if you're in the UK using QuickBooks Online, absolutely.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
that's interesting.
yeah,
I think yeah, need to hook you up with our business in Scotland.
that'd be awesome.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Weston, so much for being on our podcast. And everybody stay tuned where Amy comes on to give a summary in Spanish. And in our show notes, we'll have where to go to get in touch with Weston. So, but yeah, you can hear from him in lots of different ways coming up. So stay tuned.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Great. See you soon.